Okay guys, this is standard SS8H4. Explains significant factors that affect westward expansion in Georgia between 1789 and 1840. First off, we have the University of Georgia. We talked about this, the first public university in the entire United States. Before this, there are all private universities, and they all have a religious aspect to them, but this is a state-run public university, the first one in the entire United States. Established in 1785, they wanted to improve education for Georgians. We talked about specifically which Georgians. Yes, white men. And it is a land-grant university created by the state government of Georgia. But what role did it have on Georgia's growth? It increased education across the state, which we talked about. That increases the economy. It increases availability for other people to have jobs. It helps everybody. As people moved west, Georgia's capital moved west. We also talked about that. Georgia's originally founded Savannah is our capital. Then as more people show up and the state starts to grow, they move it up here to Augusta. Remember, we stayed along the Savannah River there. As they continue to go west, it moves down to Louisville. It does not last long in Louisville because of the mosquitoes and the malaria and all that such. It then moves to Milledgeville, and it's in Milledgeville all the way through the Civil War, and eventually is moved to Atlanta, where we know it today, based on the railroads there. Okay, cotton gin. This is a technological advancement and development for this time that's huge. It separates the seeds from the cotton very quickly, much faster than any human being could do it by hand, so it increases cotton production dramatically in Georgia, also increases the need and use of slavery in Georgia. Railroads are first constructed in Georgia in the 1830s to transport that cotton. The railroads brought businesses, people, and goods into and out of the state, and they intersected in what was known as terminus. You can see it right here. Like we said, that's what eventually becomes Atlanta. How does this influence the growth of Georgia? The more businesses that can come in, the more people that can come in, it just continues to grow and grow. Alright, so the headright system, the different land systems that we talked about. Head of the family had the right to own 200 acres of land, plus 50 more for each family member. Right, this is back when James Oglethorpe and those people, those original settlers, and on into the 1790s. Then we have the land lottery. This doesn't start until 1805. White men, 21 and older, could pay to spin a wheel for the chance to win the land. This starts because they're running out of land from the headright system. They don't have 200 acres to give everybody, so they have to start raffling it off, basically. Okay, this is how Hall County splits. Alright, it's important to know that the governor is our executive branch, and the legislative branch is the General Assembly here in Georgia. In between those two land systems, we had the Yazoo land fraud. Alabama and Mississippi, if you look at them right here, they used to be part of Georgia. Okay, land companies want to buy these western lands, so they bribe Georgia's governor and our General Assembly, our legislators, to sell the land. So they do it way, way cheaper than it should have been sold, but they didn't care because they were getting paid bribes. Okay, the people of Georgia found out. They're mad. They vote these people out of office. The government, the United States government, asked the land company to sell the land back, but they'd already sold it to other individual people. So those landowners sued, and the case goes all the way to the Supreme Court. The court rules the Yazoo sale was a legal contract, so they had to pay those people $5 million for their land, and Georgia does not get the land back. The federal government owns the territory now, and they make the states of Alabama and Mississippi. Okay. Alright, so the Cherokee and the Creek, remember, they descended from the Mississippians. The Creek chief at this time, William McIntosh, he signs a treaty of Indian Springs and gives up all the Creek land that has not already been lost through war in Georgia. This is a big no-no in the Creek culture. He is killed by his own tribe. Remember, we talked about a very traumatic death. They burn his house down, they shoot him, they stab him. They made it very clear that what he did was not okay. Alright, so we also have the Cherokee in northern Georgia. They live there. They are influenced by Georgians to become more modern. They want to assimilate and be more like the white people. Their capital is New Echota. They have their own newspaper called the Cherokee Phoenix, and 3 branches of government, just like the U.S. government, bicameral legislature, just like the U.S. government, constitution and voting rights, just like the U.S. government. In 1828, Andrew Jackson was elected U.S. president. As the Creek were being removed, he also had plans to remove the Cherokee as well. Remember, the white settlers want the land, they want the resources, and the American Indians are just in their way. In 1828, the first American gold rush occurs in Dahlonega, right up the road from us. Gold is discovered on Cherokee territory by Benjamin Parks. He's walking one day, trips over it, picks it up, it happens to be gold. So now all these white people rush to Cherokee land, and because of this, the General Assembly passes some laws that Cherokee laws are considered null and void. They don't matter anymore. Cherokee could not speak against white men in court, and the Cherokee had no right to any of the gold found in Georgia, even though it was their land and had been for centuries. Okay, Worcester versus Georgia. Remember, Samuel Worcester was a white missionary living in Cherokee territory, caring for the Cherokee, ministering to them. The General Assembly passes a law saying white people could not live in the Cherokee territory without taking an oath of allegiance to Georgia's governor and applying for a specific license. Samuel Worcester says no, he's not going to do it. He gets arrested and has to walk all the way to Lawrenceville from Dahlonega to go to court. In court, they're found guilty here in Georgia, so they appeal it up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Judge John Marshall rules that the Cherokee Territory was not subject to state law and Worcester was innocent. That means that the Cherokee are an independent nation. They are not expected to answer to what Georgia lawmakers say. This gives them false hope that one day they're going to be able to keep their land no matter what. Georgia's governor and the U.S. president, though, would not enforce that ruling. John Ross, he was the Cherokee boss. He made several trips to Washington, persuading Congress and the president to treat the Cherokee fairly. He wanted to do this the way that a white person would do it, the way our government would work out, and appeal to everyone's nature that way. Right. Okay. So Andrew Jackson, again, U.S. President, he enforces the Indian Removal Act. That's actually how he gets himself elected. He says that the Native Americans, the American Indians, have 2 years to leave their land. And he forces all Native Americans to Western territories. And for some reason, they put them on the $20 bill. This leads to what we know as the Trail of Tears. All the Cherokee are forced to move west, all the way to Oklahoma. They were rounded up and kept in stockades until all of them were rounded up, except for a few that escaped to North Carolina. While they're stuck in these stockades, remember, it's like a prison, kind of big wood walls. They don't have enough blankets. They don't have enough food. And then they're set to walk on foot all the way out to Oklahoma. So thousands of natives, due to weather, because it was so cold, and disease. Remember, they go from Alabama, Tennessee areas where they're kept in the stockades, all the way out to Oklahoma. How did the Trail of Tears impact Georgia and the Native Americans? A lot of people did not survive that. A lot of families were hurt by the U.S. government's actions. If you look at all the native lands before Europeans showed up, now this is the reservations that Native Americans are given to live on today.